So now we are going to look at the 7 tribes, because he spoke in Joshua chapter 18 that he spoke about 7 tribes that had not received the inheritance. So who were these 7 tribes? So we look at the first tribe, which is Benjamin. And that is spoken of. Benjamin, we're going to look at Benjamin, and that is from Joshua 18, verses 11 to 28, was everything that was then given to Benjamin. But Benjamin didn't conquer. There were things that Benjamin did not conquer. So what we're now going to look at, we're going to look at the 7 tribes. What are the strongholds of the 7 tribes? And then to understand how are we going to be able to overcome this, in understanding the different gates, the tribes at the different gates, and what are the strongholds that hold these tribes together. And it's interesting because these tribes, if you look at it, they're tied in with the nations. And what is in these tribes is the same kind of thing that's happening with every one of these nations and the strongholds in the nations. So, Benjamin, the stronghold of Benjamin is pride. So you see, already there, we saw that pride was coming up. The boastful, the proud, it was there. So that's the stronghold, that is the stronghold for Benjamin, is pride. So how are we going to be able to conquer this pride? By coming into a place of humility, by taking a lower place, by being able to be humble, by humbling yourself, by being able to come, you know, when you're going to want to have your say or do whatever, just come to the place of saying, you know what, Father, it's okay. If they want to shine, let them shine. If they want to do whatever, let them do it. You will raise me up at the appointed time. Because he knows how to do that. What does he say? He resists the proud, but he gives grace to the humble. So he will resist the proud. And the prideful will eventually fall. Then you look at Simeon. So then the next tribe was Simeon. And that is from Joshua 19, from verses 1 to 9. And so Simeon actually was one of the tribes that lost their tribal identity. So Benjamin is already going to be mentioned. We're going to have a look when we're going to get to Judges. We're going to have a look where Benjamin fits in, and Simeon is going to be there, but Simeon is going to be together. He's going to be like, the reason why Simeon is seen is because Simeon basically he lost his tribal identity. He was absorbed into Judah, and he basically lost his tribal identity. So he basically, and isn't it interesting, what does Simeon mean? To hear. So he was supposed to shema, he was supposed to hear and obey. Simeon means to hear. So that deaf and dumb spirit that is there, that deaf and mute spirit, caused him not to obey, caused him not to hear. So we will have the stronghold of like this, the spirit, that the deaf and dumb spirit, they have ears yet they do not hear, they have eyes yet they do not see, because it's shama and shamar. Because why? Because if they were to hear, they are to hear to understand. But the problem is they hear but they don't want to understand, because they hear but they don't want to obey. They see but they don't want to obey. And that will be a deaf and a dumb spirit that is there, that is holding them captive because they don't want to submit to the truth of the Father's word. And that is why, how do you cast out a spirit? Through the fasting. So this is a spirit that comes because they have ears, but they don't want to hear. So let's go to let's go to Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 6. And this is what the Father was saying of Israel. This is what he was saying of his people. And he says, and I heard the voice of Yahuwah saying, whom do I send, and whom would go for me, or who would go for us? And I said, here I am, send me. And he said, go, and you shall say to this people, hearing you hear, but do not understand. Seeing you see, but do not know. And to know is to perceive, recognize, become acquainted with the Father as a husband and a wife in intimacy. But why do they not understand? Why do they not know? Because their hearts, because the people are fat and their ears heavy, and shut their eyes, lest they see with their eyes and hear with their ears and understand with their hearts, and shall turn and be healed. So when the Father starts to speak and the Father starts to reveal, they become fat in their rebellion, and they don't want to be able to submit. Then you've got the next tribe, which is Zebulun. Now the tribe of Zebulun is spoken of in Joshua chapter 19, verses 10 to 16, and what was given to him. Now Zebulun, the stronghold over Zebulun is a familiar spirit, which is got to do with witchcraft, but a familiar spirit can also be a religious spirit. And these are those that are very religious. And they don't understand that this spirit is keeping them captive. It's a familiar spirit that comes, and it comes in a way that they can't even see that they are in error because of the religious mindsets that they have and because of what's been taught them. And they don't understand that it's only through repentance that it's going to be able to be broken. And this is exactly what I experienced on last week, Sunday, with a pastor, because there's no repentance, because they pride themselves in that which they know is the truth. Then you've got Issachar. Then you've got Issachar. Now, Issachar was on the border together with Manasseh. So when we are going to look at Manasseh, but Issachar, when the borders were done, when it's spoken of in the borders there, basically Issachar is with Manasseh, that he also didn't claim the land, because Issachar was part of it. And the stronghold of Issachar is whoredom, serving money, the flesh, the love of the world. Did we see that? Worldliness, materialism, fleshly living. And then you've got Issachar. Issachar is the spirit of heaviness. That's that oppression. That's that condemnation, the discouragement, the defeat. That's that oppression, that condemnation that is there. That heaviness, the spirit of heaviness that comes upon a person. And this is, when we get into that place of that heaviness and this condemnation and the discouragement, we ought to be able to start praising the Father, start worshiping Him and praising Him. And then you've got Naphtali. Naphtali, the stronghold, is jealousy. When the spirit of jealousy comes up, and then that spirit of jealousy then causes that pride to come up within that person, that they are the ones that want to be seen. They are the ones that want to be heard because of the jealousy. And the jealousy comes with the envy. And the jealousy comes with Leviathan. And that jealousy spirit eventually wants to kill, because that's exactly what Cain did to Abel, killed him because he was jealous of his brother. and we are to be able to overcome it through love. Then you've got Dan, and the stronghold is bondage. And the redemptive key for the Dan, for the stronghold of the bondage, that is when we are bound. And I would say that that being bound has to do with also the fear, the intimidation, the anxiety. It's also to do with the being bound in deceit and falsehood and seduction. We are bound, the bondage in many things. And that is why we need the Ruach of Yahuwah to come and take us out of all of that. Then the Father took me to be able to go look at Judges. And we are going to now look at Judges chapter 3. So let's go to Judges chapter 3 as we continue to be able to see the promises that the Father has given. So when we go to Judges chapter 1, so basically let's go look at Judges chapter 1. So in Judges chapter 1, we go to Judges chapter 1, and I want to be able to show you the 7 tribes, again written 7 tribes, that basically didn't conquer certain cities. And we're going to look at this. So in Judges chapter 1, the Father speaks, and we have a look in from verses 18. He says, Yehuda, so let's just look from verse 20. And they gave Hebron to Caleb, as Moshe had said, and he drove out from there three sons of Anak. Now, basically from Judges chapter 1, he's talking about the different tribes and the lands that they have and the towns that they have and everything that was given to them, and that which they overcame and that which they did not overcome. So we're going to start by looking at the first tribe that did not overcome the land, and it's Benjamin. And so we're going to start from Judges chapter 1 from verse 21, and it says, however, the children of Benjamin did not drive out the Jebusites who inhabited Jerusalem. So the Jebusites have dwelt with the children of Benjamin in Jerusalem to this day. So what is that Jebusite? Why didn't they conquer the Jebusite? So that Jebusite, if we look at the Jebusites, it's to trample down, it's the oppression, it's the condemnation, it's the discouragement, it's defeat. It's to trample down. So that which we don't overcome, so if we do not overcome this Jebusites, they will trample us down. They will bring us into oppression and into condemnation and into discouragement. Now, the reason why they say they didn't conquer it is because it was a fortress on the top of the hill, and they didn't have the strength to be able to overcome the fortress on the top of the hill. But yet the Father said to them, He will be the one to do it for them. He would be the one to conquer. But they didn't want to conquer. And it had to take 400 years later for David to conquer. Then you're going to go to Judges chapter 1, verses 27 to 28. So in Judges chapter 1, verses 27 to 28, it says, and Manasseh did not possess Beit Shean and the villages, nor Tanakh and its villages. So you see, this is where the border of Issachar is, together with Manasseh. So they did not dispossess. So yeah, Issachar gets mentioned with this, even though Issachar's name is not mentioned over here, but Issachar's the border of it, they were border with Issachar. They did not possess Beit Shean and its village, nor Tanakh and its villages, nor the inhabitants of Dor and its villages, nor the inhabitants of Yebeliam and its villages, nor the inhabitants of Megiddo and its villages, for the Canaanites desired to dwell in that land. And it came to be that when Israel was strong, that they put the Canaanites into compulsory labor, but did not completely drive them out. So we use the things of the world for our benefit, for what benefits us. So now if we have a look at these words, Beit Shean, okay, is house of ease. So they wanted to be at ease. I'm going to look at this where some of them are going to be what they were at, and some of them is going to be, basically, you can have a look at this from two ways. You can have a look at it that this is what they should have been. They should have had ease in their lives, but they didn't conquer it. And in other times, you're going to see it as this is what they were supposed to destroy, but they didn't destroy it. So Beit Shean means house of ease. To be at ease, to be at rest, be quiet. So they wanted to be at ease, they wanted to be at rest, they wanted to be quiet. But at the same time, the fact that they did not overcome this, it means that they did not have this that the Father wanted to give them. The Father wanted to give them ease. The Father wanted to give them rest. The Father wanted them to be in a place of being quiet and still. But if they didn't overcome it, they weren't going to have it, because they didn't overcome it. The next one, Tanak, that's sandy. So it's like the soil, fleshly. Dor is generation, a dwelling, to heap up. So this was supposed to be a generation that was supposed to raise up, that they were to be a generation that was supposed to be able to be a dwelling place for the Father, to heap up for him. This was the town. These are all the towns that they didn't conquer. And this is what the towns mean. Yebleam, devouring the people, to swallow up. So eventually, this would devour them and swallow them up, where they would have swallowed up the people and swallowed up the people that would devour them, because they would have overcome. Megiddo, place of crowds, to penetrate, cut, attack, invade, gather troops. So this was, if they would have got rid of the Canaanites, they would have been able to have gathered the troops. They would have attacked, they would have invaded, but now instead, they will be attacked, they will be invaded, and there will be troops coming up against them. And so what did they want to do? They wanted to dwell with the Canaanites, because the Canaanites were going to be able to become labor for them. So they were going to be able to come and trade. They wanted to use them for trade. So the Canaanites, look and see, merchants, traders, it's because of their greed and their covetousness, because of the love of what they were giving them, the money and the resources that they were giving them. Then we go to Ephraim. Ephraim is Judges 1:29. Judges 1 verse 29, it says, neither did Ephraim drive out the Canaanites who dwell in Gezer. So the Canaanites dwell in their midst in Gezer. Gezer is the portion, part, piece, to cut, divide, cut down, cut off. So here, because they did not overcome Gezer, they will be cut down, they will be cut off, they will lose their portion. So here we see Ephraim got lazy. They preferred to be able to get the taxes that was coming from the labor that was coming with Manasseh. And they wanted to make money while staying with the enemy. So you see, how can two people walk together lest they agree? And what does, in 1 Corinthians chapter 6, it says, let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 6. What do we have in common with an unbeliever? So if the Father tells us to be able to come out of this, then we've got to come out of everything. And Elohim, who raised up the master, shall also raise up through his power. Do you not know that your bodies are the members of Messiah? Shall I then take the members of Messiah and make them members of a whore? Let it not be. Or do you not know that he who is joined to a whore is one body? For he says the flesh. Okay, that's the one where you join. Then 2 Corinthians. It's not quite that one that I'm looking for. I'm looking for 2 Corinthians. Do not become unevenly yoked with unbelievers. For what partnership hath righteousness and lawlessness? And what fellowship has light with darkness? And what agreement has Messiah with Belial? Or what part does a believer have with an unbeliever? So when the Father says, get rid of it, he doesn't want it to be joined to you. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to go into partnership with that non-believer, how do two people walk together lest they agree? And this is what they were doing with these Canaanites. Then we go to so here we see that Ephraim also, they disobeyed Deuteronomy 7 verse 2, that we shall not make a covenant with them. And they went and made a covenant with these Canaanites. They went into covenant with them. Oh, we will not destroy you, but we will use you. Zebulun, Judges 1:30. So in Zebulun, Judges 1:30 says, neither did Zebulun drive out the inhabitants of Kitron or the inhabitants of Nahalol. So the Canaanites dwelt in their midst and became compulsory labor. So again, they allow them to stay there and they're going to use their services now. And so Kitron means incense, sacrifice, burn incense, make sacrifices, and Nahalal, pasture, watering place. So once again, they settled for the economical benefit that it was giving them, the money benefit that was giving them, instead of being obedient to the Father in destroying them. And so yeah, we see that then what ends up happening, they will burn incense to their idols, they will make sacrifices to their idols, and they don't destroy that. And they will be able to stay in their pasture and in their watering place. And they make the pasture and the watering place become a place for their idols, which they were supposed to destroy. And that is why in Deuteronomy chapter 7 verses 4, Yahuwah warns us that we are to turn our sons and our daughters away. We are not to let them be in unity with them, because they will be part of the world and we will be dragged into the world. And the more we are part of the system, that's the whore of Babylon, and we are going to be part of this whole whore of Babylon, and we are in unity with the whore of Babylon, and we're not coming out of the system. So then you got Asher. Asher from Judges 1 verse 31, and it says, neither did Asher drive out the inhabitants of Akko, nor the inhabitants of Sidon, nor of Achalab, nor of Akzib, nor of Hilbah, nor of Apiki, nor of Rehob. So the Asherites dwelt in the midst of the Canaanites and the inhabitants of the land, because they did not drive them out. So Akko, it means his straightness, to hem in. So he would have taught them his straightness, and they would have been hemmed in if they had overcome. Sidon, hunting, to hunt, take provision, food supply. He would have provided everything that they needed of this food supply. But you see, Asher made the excuse because they were a smaller tribe, and you see how many towns they did not overcome, cities they did not overcome, because they made themselves out. I mean, you've got to understand, Sidon was a big place, and they were strong cities. But the Father had already said, I am the one who's going to conquer. But you see, the fear, the intimidation, the fear. Halab, fertile place, fatness. So you see, they would have had a fertile place and the fatness. Akzib, deceit, deceitful, deception, lie, falsehood. So now they will go deeper into deceit, into the deceptive, into the lie, into the falsehood. Halba, fertile fatness. Once again, everything about being fertile, everything about being fatness that the Father is going to give them. And then afik, enclosure, to hold, be strong, strength. He would close them up. He would be able to be their strength, and he would be strong for them. Rahab, broad place, open place, grow large, be enlarged. He would have enlarged their territory. Even though they were a small tribe, he would have made them a big tribe. He would have enlarged their territory. And so they assimilated with the people, and they did not conquer. So they themselves, what did they do? So the Asherites dwelt, they assimilated, and they dwelt in the midst of the Canaanites and the inhabitants of the land, because they did not drive them out. So you see what we do. We don't want to get rid of these things in our lives. We just live with them, and we let them be part of us. Then Naphtali, Judges 1:33. Naphtali drive out the inhabitants of Beth Shemesh, nor the inhabitants of Beth Anath, but they dwelt among the Canaanites and the inhabitants of the land, and the inhabitants of Beth Shemesh and Beth Anath became compulsory labor for them. So here we see Beth Shemesh is the house of the sun, a sun temple. So they allowed the sun god worship to continue in the land. And then Beth Anath, the house of affliction. So they would be afflicted because they allowed sun god worship to continue in the land. And what did they do? They made money out of them. And it was again their political interest that they had, because they're making money out of them. They used them so that they wouldn't, and they didn't fight them. So they preferred to use them, and they didn't want to fight them. Then you've got Dan, Judges 1:34, and the Amorites pressed the children of Dan into the mountains, for they would not allow them to come down to the valley. And the Amorites desired to dwell in Mount Heres and Ayalon and Shalbim. But when the land of the house of Joseph became stronger, they became compulsory labor. So here we see that Dan succumbs to the Amorites, which is the proud, the boastful, the pride, the arrogance, and the selfishness that is there. Because they didn't succumb, they didn't overcome. So in Judges chapter 2, verses 1-3, it says, and the messenger of Yahuwah came up from Gilgal to Bochim and said, I led you up from Mitzrayim and brought you to the land of which I swore to your fathers. And I said, I do not break my covenant with you. And as for you, do not make a covenant with the inhabitants of this land. Break down their slaughter places. So instead of us breaking down their slaughter places, we cause our places to look like the things of the world. So we will bring those things into the places of worship of the Father. Break down their slaughter places, but you have not obeyed my voice. What is this you have done? Therefore I also said, I am not driving them out before you, and they shall be adversaries to you, and their mighty ones shall be a snare to you. So here we go. Their mighty ones will then become a snare for us. And so by the time we're going to get to chapter 3, he says, and these are the nations which Yahuwah left to try Israel by them, all those who had not known all the battles in Canaan, only that the generations of the children of Israel might know to teach them battle, only those who before did not know them. So understand, where do we think we are not going to battle? Where do we think we are not going to have to overcome? Where do we think we are not going to be in a battle? Where do we think we're not going to be in a battle? That's why we just embrace everything and we just allow everything, and we say, well, it's fine, it's okay. I don't need to fight anything. And I'll just carry on with everything. And I don't allow the Father to have his way. And I mingle myself with the things of the world. And I allow the world's ways to be able to conform me, and to, instead of Abba transforming me by the difficulties that I've got to go through, he keeps taking us through the difficulties because he's taking us out of this world system. He keeps removing things from us because he knows what we're bound by. So then he says, only the generations of the children of Israel might know to teach them battle, only those who before did not know them. 5 princes of Philistine, all the Canaanites, the Sidonians, the Hivites, who dwell in Mount Lebanon, Mount Baal Hermon, to the entrance of Hamath. And they were to try Israel by them, to know whether they would obey the commands of Yahuwah. So understand, every trial and every test that we go through is so that to see whether we will obey the commands of the Father. We can worship him with our lips, but our hearts will be far from him, because the trials and the tests are there to see, will we obey his commands? So he allows the Philistines. So what is the word Philistines? The Philistines is the immigrants. To roll in the dust or ashes, migratory. And the migratory means frequently moving from place to place, wandering and not finding rest. So when we are wandering from place to place, we are rolling in the dust and the ashes, and those are the immigrants, and they are the Philistines that are coming up against us. And because we keep moving from place to place, wandering, and we are not finding rest, and they have been allowed to come into our lives because they are there. These are the 5 princes of the Philistines and the Canaanites and the Sidonians, to be able to come and try us and test us to see if we will be obedient to his commands. The Canaanites are zealous. They are zealous, and they are the merchants, the trafficker, the trade, the greed, the covetousness, the love of money. They are the merchants. These are the things that will come in our lives to test us. And then you've got the Sidonians. The Sidonians are the hunting. That's the hunting spirit. They chase us down. They hunt us to catch us like an animal and to bring us down. That's the Sidonians. Then the Hivites. The Hivites bring the deception. They bring the deceit, the falsehood, the seduction. So it's the deceptive spirit, the seduction, the falsehood, all of this that comes to be able to bring us down to see, are we going to obey the Father or are we not? Are we going to succumb to the deception? Then you've got Mount Lebanon. Mount Lebanon is whiteness, to become pure, purify, and then make bricks. So you see, are we allowing the Father to be able to bring us into the purity, into the holiness, or make bricks? Are we going to be able to be bricked up and not being able to move? Then you've got Baal Hermon. And then it's also the Mount Lebanon is also whiteness of clay. So it's got to do with the clay, which has got to do with the earth, which has got to do with flesh nature. Baal Hermon is the Lord of destruction, to destroy, completely destroy. So the Father will allow us to be completely destroyed by these enemies because we do not want to overcome the things in our lives. Hamath, that's a fortress and walled. So then we will have a fortress and we will be walled as if we are in a prison, because we cannot come free, because we are not willing to be able to submit and be able to come back to his commands, because he says, and they were to try Israel by them. So this Sidonians, the Philistines, the Canaanites, the Hivites, was to be able to try them, to know whether they would obey the commands of Yahuwah, which he had commanded their fathers by the hand of Moshe. Thus the children of Israel dwelt in the midst of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Why? Because they did not destroy them. They chose to dwell among them, and took their daughters to be their wives, and gave their daughters to their sons, and they served their mighty ones. Thus the children of Israel did evil in the eyes of Yahuwah, and forgot all their allure, and served the Baals and the Asherah. So yeah, we see, they forgot the ways of the Father. They served the Asherah. And this is what happens if we don't come back to the commands of the Father. If we don't come back to his ways, we will eventually serve the ways of the world. We will go further and further into the things of the world. We'll get ourselves involved in the politics of the world. We'll get involved with ourselves with the things of this world. and we will not be able to come out of it, because we will be taken in further and further by those things that are in our lives that we have not overcome, because we are not willing to come back to his commands and to his ways. And the displeasure of Yahuwah burnt against Israel, and he sold them into the hand of Cushan Rishathaim. Now that means twice wicked, double wickedness, ethical and religious violence, crime against the civil law. And so then the wickedness will be within us, because we will stand up against not just the civil law, but his law that he has given us. So those are then the 7, because if you count them again, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's again 7. It's again the 7 in Judges chapter 3. Then the Father took me to go look now at number 15. So we've now covered the understanding of everything that he's trying to say about the fact that we've come into our promised land. Are we going to receive our inheritance? Because for us to receive our inheritance, this is what's before us. And now we are going to go a little bit deeper into the understanding of number 115. And then I'll end off with the prophetic words from another 2 books that he has given me for us to be able to get the full picture, and Psalm 115 for us to understand the fullness of everything. So when I looked for number 115, there was no number 115 in my book. But it's made up of 2 numbers. It's made up of the number 100. Interesting. It was the one that was the number 100 that had fallen off my husband's vehicle. Now, that vehicle, the Father showed me then, it's this panel van. Then all of a sudden I got a revelation and I thought, okay, it's a panel van. What is the panel van? It's a big thing that you can actually stand inside. It's used for work purposes, but it's so big inside that you can actually open up the door on the side and you can actually stand inside it. So it could even be used for something that you could maybe eventually turn it into a little place where you could be able to make up like a little caravan, not a little caravan, but like a little place that you could sleep in with a bed, with whatever. But they use it for work. And it's a vehicle and it's part of a ministry thing. That's the way it was being shown. But it's interesting that it's the number 100 that had fallen off and only number 15 was left. And that bugged him. And now I understand why it bugged him and why he wanted it restored to the 115. So look at the number 100. So what had fallen was the abundant return, because the number 100 means fullness of redemption, completeness and fulfillment, abundant return. It's the promise of 100-fold, full, complete reward, abundant return for a sacrifice made. And I tell you, we have made many sacrifices as a family. Many, many sacrifices, and we are still walking out a sacrifice as a family. And this is the abundant return that must be given, because the Father wants an abundant return. But then you get the number 15, and now that was the number that was left, number 15. And we're going to have to understand number 15, because number 15 has got things attached to it. So number 15 is it's the number of divine grace. It's also grace in glory. And it's also time of rest. And it's liberty. But we've got to look at this number 15 according to the Bible. And so when I went and looked into this number 15, it's interesting because it talks about who was given 15 years of life. None other than King Hezekiah, because 15 is 3 times 5. Now, isn't it interesting that if you go to 1 Kings, let's go to 1 Kings. 1 Kings chapter 20, and we're going to go to verse 5. In 1 Kings chapter 20, verse 5, now, I'm going to give you the understanding. King Hezekiah was sick, and King Hezekiah was, if you look and see, in 2 Kings chapter 20, and he's turning around and he prays and he says, I pray to you, O Yahuwah, Remember how I've walked before you in truth and with a perfect heart, and have done what was good in your eyes. And Hezekiah wept bitterly. So he's seeing how he's worked so right before the Father. And he did. King Hezekiah broke down the idols. He rebuilt the city. He did much for the Father, King Hezekiah. And so by verse 5 it says, because then Yeshayahu, and it came to be verse 4, and it came to be before Yeshayahu had gone out into the middle court, that the word of Yahuwah came to him, saying, return and say to Hezekiah, that the leader of my people, thus says Yahuwah, the Eluah of David your father, I have heard your prayer and I have seen your tears. See, I'm going to heal you. On the third day, go up to the house of Yahuwah. Now it's 3 times 5 that gives you the 15, and on the third day he goes and he heals him. Now everybody stops there because they think, wow, this is amazing. The Father's done such an amazing miracle. But we have to look deeper. And so, and I shall add to your years, to your days, 15 years, and deliver you, and this city from the hand of the sovereign of Issachar, and shall defend the city for my own sake, and for the sake of David my servant. And Yeshayahu said, take a cake. Okay, so Yeshayahu tells him what to do. And he gets healed. But now we've got to go see the story, and we're going to go to 2 Chronicles, and let's go to 2 Chronicles chapter 32. So let's go to 2 Chronicles chapter 32, and now we are going to pick up in verse 23. And it says, and many brought gifts to Yahuwah at Jerusalem, and presents to Hezekiah, sovereign of Yehudah, and he was exalted in the eyes of all the nations thereafter. In those days Hezekiah was sick and near death, and he prayed to Yahuwah, and he spoke to him and appointed a sign for him. However, Hezekiah did not repay according to the good done to him, for his heart was lifted up. He became prideful in his heart. Therefore, wrath came upon him, and upon Yehudah, and upon Jerusalem. Then Hezekiah humbled himself for the pride of his heart, and he had inhabitants in Jerusalem, so that the wrath of Yahuwah did not come upon them in the days of Hezekiah. And Hezekiah had much riches and esteem, and he made himself treasuries for silver, for the gold, and for precious stones, and for spices, and for shields. And now listen to verse 29. And he made cities for himself, and possessions of great number of flocks and herds, for Eluah gave him much property. Now remember, a king was not to acquire much wealth. And Ezekiel, who prospered in all his work, however, with the envoys of the princes of Babel, whom they sent to ask him about the wonder that was done in the land, Eluah left him in order to try him, to know all that was in his heart. And the rest of the acts of Ezekiel, so he was tried. And this is when he opened up. So then if you go back to 2 Chronicles, Isaiah comes to see him, and he opens up the treasury of all the wealth that he'd acquired, and he opened it and showed it to the king of Babel. And this is when the Father says, what you have done is wicked. Well, Isaiah prophesies against him and says, you will die, and your descendants are going to go into slavery. They're going to go into Babylon. They will go into Babylon. They're going to go into slavery, they're going to go into exile into Babylon. So, beloveds, what was it that was there? It was the pride in his heart. He exalted himself. The Father blessed him to such an extent, and then what did he do? He took those finances and he used it for himself. And he exalted himself because it was about him. And in those 15 years, the Father said, get your house in order because you're going to die. And in those 15 years, he was supposed to get his house in order. But instead, he died a wicked king, even though he started a good king. And so then I understood that number 15, even though it is the number for grace in glory, the Father wants to give abundant return in grace and glory. But we have to understand that there is an element that we need to humble ourselves. And so we see that if we do not deal with the ites that are in our hearts, no matter how great the things we have done for Yahuwah, like King Hezekiah, it will come to destroy us. We will be destroyed by our enemies. So then when I looked at H 115, Adoriahim, that's the word for H 115. It means double glory. But the root comes from Adar, which is to be great, to be majestic, noble, glorious, honorable. But then we have a look at G 115, antithesis. And then you go back to the root word, which is of G 114, which is athethio, and it's abolition, disannulling, put away. Listen to these words. Put away, rejection, do away with, to disregard, to nullify, to make void, to reject, to refuse, to bring to naught, to reject, to neutralize, to violate, to cast off, to despise. Is that everything that we've done to the Father's commands and the Father's name and the Father's ways? We have despised his name. We have brought his name to naught. We have rejected his commands. We have made it null and void. We have nullified it. We've disregarded it. We've disannulled it. We have rejected it. We have done away with it. And then we understand why we don't have the double glory. Then we understand why. Because then if we go to Psalm 115, let's go to Psalm 115. So that we bring everything together, because, beloveds, this is a message that only the Father could put together. No man could have put this message together. No man. Because this is a word from the Father's mouth. Not to us, O Yahuwah, not to us, but to your name give esteem. So you see, only his name gets the esteem. For your loving commitment, for your truth. Why should the nations say, where now is their Alua? But our Alua is in the heavens. Whatever pleases him, he has done. Their idols are silver and gold. What became the idol of King Hezekiah? King Hezekiah. What became the idol? Silver and gold. And all the wealth that he was attaining. The work of men's hands. So you see, silver and gold becomes the problem that comes amongst us. The work of our hands, that which we have established, that which we have done, that which we have been able to do, that which we pride ourselves in. This is what I've achieved. In all my achievements in my workplace, or in my achievements in my education, and all these achievements that I have achieved, and we elated. And then our children become part of that system, and they become elated into the system of this world. And further they're getting away from, the more they go into the system, the more they're getting further and further away from the Father. Because why? It's about the work of their hands. It's about the achievements that they make in all the things that the world's got to give them. And then our children will be getting further and further away from the Father. Because why? We marry into this world. They have mouths, but they do not speak. They have eyes, but they do not see. They have ears, but they do not hear. They have noses, but they do not smell. They have hands, but they do not handle. They have feet, but they do not walk. They make no sound through their throat. The ones who make them shall be like them, all who trust in them. So we will eventually become more and more like the idols that we serve. So whatever the idol is, so look and see, if we are serving the things of this world, we will eventually go deeper and deeper into that thing that's the idol, be it a job, be it whatever it is, be it a sport, be it children, be it whatever, I don't know. We will be able to exalt that above everything, above the Father. We will serve it. We will serve that idol. And we will put our trust in that idol. We will put the trust in the silver and the gold that the idol has become. because that's what this world has done to us, has put us into their system. O Yahuwah, trust in Yahuwah. O Israel, trust in Yahuwah. He is their help and their shield. O house of Aaron, trust in Yahuwah. He is their help and their shield. You who fear Yahuwah, trust in Yahuwah. He is their help and their shield. Yahuwah has remembered us. He blesses us. He blesses the house of Israel. He blesses the house of Aaron. So he blesses the house of Israel, the 12 tribes. He's blessing the Levites because he's raising up a priesthood. He blesses those who fear him. So who's he going to bless? Those who fear him. The small and the great. Yahuwah gives the increase more and more. You and your children, you are blessed by Yahuwah, who made the heavens and the earth. The heavens are the heavens of Yahuwah, but he has given the earth to the children of men. He has given the earth to the children of men so that we may subdue it. The dead do not praise Yah, nor any going down to silence, but we bless Yah now and forever. Praise Yah. So you see, beloveds, if we do not get rid of that annulling, if we do not put away the idols, if we do not put away all our rebellion against the Father's way and his word, we will not be able to receive the blessing, the double glory, the blessing that he wants to give us in the Psalm 115. So I'm now going to finish off by reading from Come Away, My Beloved, from page 115, and it says, "O my child, there is nothing that I would hold back from you. If you will heed my word, if you will listen to my voice, I will surely lead you in a plain path. Set your affection upon me and keep them therefore. Center your attention upon me. Yes, set your heart to follow after me with singleness of mind. This will remove all the doubt at every crossroad. This will keep you continually at my disposal. Never set out upon a project. My life is not project but overflow. You have already witnessed the venture of life that has sprung forth with the waters of my spirit have flowed. How can any doubt remain? But the flesh dies hard. See, the flesh dies hard, it's true. Even Yeshua learned obedience through suffering and self-discipline. That's what he wants of us, suffering, self-discipline. And Paul admonished, endure hardship as a good soldier. At that comforts the flesh, weakens. All that comforts the flesh weakens the spirit. Here, all that comforts the flesh weakens the spirit. I could by adversity strip from you the comforts of life, but I will bless you in a double portion. So you see, he'll give us the double glory. He will give us the majestic, the noble, the glorious, the honorable. We will become that. If of your own accord you do as the Apostle Paul and lay aside every weight, resisting and many temptations that continually beset you, as you run with patience the course I set before you. Running with patience, in that these two words I have combined, the intensity of purpose and the quiet waiting upon me, you must have, or else you will be overtaken in the race by fatigue of body and soul. So, as I have told you before, come to me and pour out your praise and your love and your worship. I will bless you and guide you and use you in my own good time and pleasure. You shall not be disappointed. Hallelujah. And then I read another prophetic word from also my book of surrender, and page 115 just blew me away, because it starts in page 114, but it's a whole word, and it's called free yourself from the grave clothes. Now listen, oh my child, how many times have I spoken to you of the nearness of my coming? Be not disobedient. You have need of the grave clothes being removed, for I would bring you out, even as I brought out Lazarus out. We are in the 4th month. Lazarus came out on the 4th day, and today is the 4th of the 4th. I have already delivered you from death. I have delivered you from the tomb, and we did the prophetic work in Israel, and now I would have you set free from binding things which you were bound when you were once dead. These things have no place in your life anymore. Like the grave clothes, they may have served a purpose in the past, but now they are alive and have come out in liberty of spirit. You must be liberated in body. For how can your free spirit tolerate a bound body? Lazarus is a type of my people who have experienced a spiritual resurrection. Didn't I say that this is the body that's coming forth? It is the dry bones. And now listen to this. They are also pictured in Ezekiel's vision of the dry bones. Ezekiel's picture is of the entire body of Messiah coming together and being joined in a unit. Whereas Lazarus is a picture of the spiritual resurrection of the individual believer. This is the fourth day. We are in the fourth month. And that's why this is the fourth day. He says this is the fourth day. He came out on the fourth day, and we are on the fourth of the fourth. We are on the fourth day, and we are in the fourth month. And you are seeing many Lazaruses coming forth. Yes. Is not your Messiah calling them forth? They are not coming forth in response to the cries of men. They have been awakened from sleep of death by the voice of Yahuwah. Deliver them now and seek deliverance yourself from everything that pertains to death and the grave. Be not entangled again, wrote the Apostle Paul, with any sort of bondage. Get free from all that man has put upon you with the intent of preserving the flesh. This new life I have given you myself, and I will clothe you in new beautiful garments. These shall not bind you, neither restrict your movement. They shall clothe you as feathers clothe the bird. They shall be so suitable and appropriate for this new life in the spirit that they shall actually aid your travel. For you must travel swiftly, and you must travel much. Yes, I will send you to places you have never seen before, but you can never go thus until after this great and complete liberation. That's why he needs us to be free, because he's raising up a remnant bride that must go forth. Great because of the victory over the enemy, which is involved, and complete because you shall never go into such captivity again. You will experience a wholly new life and will see many come to me because of the curiosity concerning your resurrection. Be obedient. Loose yourself and loose others. Fear not. Where you shall be gathered, for I say unto you, you shall be gathered unto myself. And I will keep you and will add more to your number. Free yourself of the grave clothes of religion, so that I may give you the wedding garment. The dead church needs to be wrapped in something, but will clothe my people with liberty. If I am to send you, I desire you must be free physically as well as spiritually. You have no part nor place in the dead church. Come out and be separated, and touch not the unclean. This is pertaining to the dead body. Touch not the dead body. You are unclean if you do, and need days of cleansing. You will not be ready for my coming unless you come out and purify yourself and make clean your hands. O death, where is your sting? O grave, where is your victory? The sting of death is sin. The devil has brought sin, and the apostate church has provided the tomb. Come forth, walk with me in newness of life, in purity of heart, and in freedom of worship. I am your high priest of your soul. Hallelujah. Thank you, Abba Yahuwah, that in Israel you took us to this Lazarus' tomb, and you said that this is a Lazarus generation coming forth. And I pray, Father, that on this fourth day of this fourth month, that on the fourth day, Lazarus came out of the grave tomb. And I pray that this day you will set your captives free, that all these ites that have held us captive and all the disobedience that we have walked in, that we will be set free once and for all, to be able to put on our new garments, to walk in the fullness of that which you have for us. Abba, I praise you for this number 115 and for this word. Will you seal it off with the blood of Yeshua, and will it come forth and birth that which you want to birth in the hearts of your people, in Yeshua's name. Hallelujah.